This is Devin for another episode of Plug Into Devin. We're doing this very different than any of our past Plug Into Devin episodes. This is sort of an asynchronous town hall. A few days ago, I posted a request for questions on Facebook and other social media, and today I'm going to answer some of those questions. I'm going to try to answer 10 questions in about 10 minutes. Bear with me. I'm going to try to move quickly. So Carol Fineagan asked how quickly we can improve our health system. And that is really a fun answer, I think, because the CARES Act did two really important things with respect to healthcare. One, it made COVID-19 testing free, and two, it expanded Medicaid. Took 2 weeks to do those two major things. So the answer is, how quickly can we do this? We can do it very quickly. We must do it quickly. Congress has no excuse for not acting more quickly. Sean Thomas asked that any sort of, he called it Medicare for All plan, be locally controlled by cities. And I think that's really a profound observation. I really believe that whatever healthcare system we have, it must be universal, it must cover everyone, it must be affordable to the people who use it. It must be equitable. That is, it can't discriminate based on your fame or glory or your wealth. We've got to have it be public health oriented, that is outcomes oriented, health outcomes oriented, and it needs to be adaptable to the local situation. So yes, we've got to make sure that we have that set up. Richard Davidson also asked, and in the same vein, I would just point out that public health orientation. He asked about sickness care versus health care, and he makes a great point. We need a public health approach to our healthcare system that focuses on health outcomes, not sickness, treating sickness. Janis Ferre asked about, she said, often in Congress we talk about doing away with the Department of Education, and she points out that there are some critical programs under the Department of Education that could go away if we literally did away with the Department of Education. Of course, I oppose eliminating the Department of Education and want to protect all the things that it does. The United States is a mediocre performer in K-12 education, and we've got to improve that. That's going to require that we continue to maintain federal standards. It's going to require increased funding from the federal government, I think. Yes, we're going to keep the Department of Education. Nate Blouin asked about the urban-rural divide. And Walt Sorenson similarly asked about the lack of internet availability in rural Utah and suggested we pursue a 1930s style rural electrification. A couple of thoughts about this. Yes, I think the rural-urban divide can be bridged huge by technology, right? Because we can make it possible, easy, and preferable for people to work from home in highly paid jobs, working for a Silicon Valley company from Moab or from Green River or from, Sanpete County or San Juan County, Sanpete County too. So really, this is something that needs to be done. But the federal government needs to play a leadership role in stimulating and encouraging and requiring these investments. In San Juan County, we have thousands of people on the Navajo Nation who are not yet, they don't have electricity. That 1930s rural electrification never reached them, never, not in 80, 90 years since. And many people don't have running water. So we've got to address these critical issues in addition to internet availability in rural Utah. Next, Margie Broschinsky and Jake Garn both asked about the war on drugs. Now, they have a little different take. Margie works in Salt Lake City, and in her work from office, she feels like there is no rule of law, that drug-addled people are menacing her and her community with impunity. And Jake's take is that this long-term war on drugs has done nothing to eliminate drugs in our culture. And so really, although they come at this in some ways from a different standpoint, they're really asking about the same thing. And I think the answer for both is that we need to have more drug treatment. This is part of the healthcare reform in a way, because we need to make sure that drug treatment is covered like any other disease is treated. It's killing lots and lots of people. About twice as many people are dying from opioid overdoses as from car accidents now. It's a huge, huge societal public health problem, and we need to address it as a public health problem. Now, some of that, to Margie's point, needs to be mandatory, and people need to face prison if they refuse consistently to get the help and treatment that they need outside of prison. Cindy England asks, how do we pay for all these programs? Well, I would say this. I think one of the key programs that she's asking about, I didn't ask her, but I think it's universal health care, right? That's a big concern. In the United States, we're already spending radically more on our health care than any other country in the world. We have the most expensive per capita healthcare system in the world, period, bar none. We can reasonably expect to expand coverage, improve outcomes, and lower costs. That will be the goal for my term in Congress, for sure. An anonymous questioner asked, I'm a woman who's being discriminated at work. Who's going to fight for my rights? And the answer to that is me. I'm going to do that. We're going to start by fighting for the Equal Rights Amendment to be passed. And we're going to work on all kinds of other things, including finding ways to create programs that will accelerate the number of women working in the C-suite in companies around the country. We have far too few, and there is no good reason that is happening. There are some bad reasons, right? I once heard about a mentorship program that was created by and for women at a large bank. And immediately the program was hijacked by men. That's the kind of thing that has to be protected, right? Mentorship programs for women and minorities and other disadvantaged populations need to be protected from intrusion and co-option by white men, people who look like me, by the way. Okay, so Walt Sorenson also asked, Walt asked a lot of questions. We're only going to hit a few of his, but he asked about 15 questions. Walt, so you asked about the decline of trade schools in high school, and great point. Those jobs are not going away. Those are great jobs. The problem is, I think in part, they don't pay as well as they used to. We need to make sure that those jobs are protected in a way that they pay adequately, which may mean strengthening unions in order to make sure that people who have those skills get paid what they deserve for performing those jobs, and that they get paid what they deserve. We also need to make sure that trade school training post-secondary is essentially free. Community college and trade school should be essentially free. Yeah, we can argue about what that might mean, but it should be effectively essentially free. So that no one doesn't go to those schools because of money. That's the key goal. Walt also asked about water issues, and it's such an important topic. I was a little bit surprised no one else asked about it because there are so many people who ask good questions. But yes, we've got to deal with water. I am optimistic that abundant clean energy is part of the solution, in part because we're using so much water for oil and gas extraction. And so much more water, even for burning coal. I mean, it's amazing how much water coal uses. And we don't think about coal as a water use, but it certainly is. So is natural gas. So we've got to get off of fossil fuels so that we're not wasting water on the production of fossil fuels, since we have clean, abundant energy available to us now. But furthermore, clean, abundant energy should be affordable, radically affordable in the future, making possible things like desalination of the ocean and extracting water from air. I'm excited about technologies that clean, abundant energy makes possible. Finally, Richard Swart asked about, and I'm so glad he did, he asked about Citizens United, citizen participation, ethics in government, et cetera, et cetera. Man, this is such an important topic. I am a big fan of the reforms proposed by an organization called Represent Us. I did a Forbes story about them with the founder, Josh Silver, a few years ago. Wholeheartedly endorsed their work, intended to get better boundaries for our congressional districts and other governmental districts around the country, and local, municipal, and state government, as well as federal, and in getting money out of politics. So lots of great questions. I've gone a little over the 10 minutes. Please forgive me, but let's be bold together.
I'm Devin Thorpe. For the last 8 years, I've been working full-time to eradicate extreme poverty, improve global health, and fight climate change. I've concluded that the best way for me to continue my work is to run for Congress to represent the people of Utah's 3rd District. In Utah, we have common shared values. Those things unite us. I believe passionately in our ability to come together, and I believe that working together, we can solve Utah's problems. I'm Devin Thorpe. I'm a Democrat. I'm running to represent the people of Utah's 3rd District.
I'm Devin Thorpe, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.